Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's open conversation. I am Olumide-Ojo from ACT Foundation, and I'm going to be your host for today. I hope you had a good night's rest, and I hope that you're gearing up for today's experience. I am looking forward to gaining a lot from today's event. Can we give a few minutes for more people to join? And while we wait, please feel free to drop your name and your organization in the chat so that we get to meet you. Thank you. Okay. Fariat Sadiq, you said the chat is disabled. Could you try one more time? I think it has been enabled now. Thank you. Yeah, please introduce yourself in the chat. And you can please tell us what you expect to get from this session today. It's on branding and communications. What would you like to take away from this session today? Hello, Miola from Miklat NPO. You are welcome. Thank you very much. Anne McCarthy, you're welcome. You would like to get ideas for finding more followers and customers. Okay. Santigue Bayo Dunguya, I hope I pronounced that right. You're from Me Yone Child Foundation in Sierra Leone. You are welcome. We're so glad to have you here. Tariq Guswap. Tariq Guswap Communications and Partnership. Okay. Our initiative, you're here from Tanzania. This is so exciting. You're welcome. You're welcome. Welcome, Yahaya Umar. We're glad to have you here. Okay, Tariq says he's here, ready to learn. I'm also ready to learn. Good to know that. Okay, Anne McCarthy says she's in UK and she runs an NGO supporting rural village children with education and healthcare in Western Uganda. Okay, you're welcome, Anne McCarthy. Yahaya says he's ready to learn good for her community and self. Okay, good. It's good to know. Please drop your names, your organization, what do you expect to learn from today's session. Fiyinfolu Ayola, you're welcome from Irede Foundation. You're looking to learn effective branding and communication skills. And I tell you, that's what today's session is about. So we hope that you learn that. Okay, Imota, can you hear me now? Am I clearer now? Am I more audible now? Can you hear me? We have Teach Huru, who's the program officer from AINDCOM, Mozambique. I don't want to butcher the name. Okay, you'd like to learn how to attract more donors. Okay. Yeah, I bet if your branding and communication is right, then you'll be able to attract more donors. Fumilola Murakinyo, you're welcome. Marvelous from Development Communications Network here in Nigeria, you are welcome. You hope to learn branding and communication as it relates to non-profits. Okay, that is exactly what we're about today. Fumilola is from Leap Africa, you're welcome. Ketura Sharma is the Executive Director of Girls Education Mission International in Jos. You are welcome. You hope to learn how to brand and communicate success stories of your organization effectively. I bet you will. Good morning, Oluwaseun, also from Irede Foundation. You look forward to increasing your knowledge in branding and communication. Okay. David Crown Oyebisi, you are here and ready to learn. You're welcome. Imota is the communication officer, okay, of the organization, and you hope to learn more about branding and communication. Great, okay. Nihilola. I apologize if I didn't do that right. Nihilola Olowe. Yeah, from Sierra Foundation, you are welcome. Ahmed Zainab, M&E Officer from Development Initiative of West Africa, you're welcome. You look forward to learning more on branding and communications. Okay, you're in the right place. Mubarak Idris, you're welcome from Bridge Connect Africa Initiative. Yeah, and McCarthy, you also want to attract more donors, okay? Mubarak is from Digital Campaigns. He's a Digital Campaigns Manager. Okay, you're in the right place. I guess you can learn more about making your campaigns better. Jason Onwe, good morning. Good morning, Ebola from Cope Foundation. Good morning, Ezine Nwodo, you're welcome. Simon Usman, also from Development Initiative of West Africa, you're welcome. Okay, you are welcome. Welcome, everyone. You'd like to know how you can convince people to actually read your newsletters and your social posts. Okay, all right then. I hope you learned that from here. Enoch Success from Farmyard, you are welcome. Nelma, you are also welcome. Welcome, Dotsu Akonde. Sadiq from Sisiyara Foundation. Bumi Adedayo, you're welcome. Welcome, everyone. We'll just wait 1 more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks again for making out time to be here. So I guess we can start now. And to give our opening address, I'm going to invite our Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Osai Alili. Please welcome her.
Good morning, everyone. Really excited to be here this morning, especially because we have our own Nkiru speaking, and we all know as nonprofits, branding and communication for us, sometimes we're so passionate about what we do and we forget that we need to put ourselves out there. So we're really, really excited to learn from her, to be able to ask questions and to be able to interact this morning. So welcome, everyone. Looking forward. Hi, everyone. Hello. Good morning, Biola. So we're looking forward to enjoying it. Nkiru, I want to say a very big thank you for saying yes. I know how busy you are, but I know that you also have a passion and a heart for the nonprofit sector as well. So we're going to just hand it back over to you, Abiodun, and I'm hoping that we all interact in the chat session during the course of while Nkiru is speaking. And at the end of the day, we walk away learning a few more things and also helping our organizations to move to the next level. Enjoy, everyone, and take care.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, for that. Now that we have been welcomed by our CEO, it's a good thing to know a bit about ACT Foundation. And to do that, I'm going to call on our Director of Programs and Grants, Inde Freke, Okwegbunam to tell us a bit about ACT Foundation.
Thank you so much, Abiodun, and good morning, everyone. I'll just quickly share my screen. So I'm going to have the privilege today of telling you about ACT Foundation, the work that we have done, the work that we are still doing. For those that haven't been on our sessions before, this is an opportunity for us to tell you a bit about our work, so you can learn about us and hopefully we can do some work together in the future. Can you see my screen? Okay, fantastic. Right. So as most of you would know, ACT Foundation is 5 this year, and we are excited, super excited at having done this for 5 years. 5 years of pushing to ensure that we contribute to social impact on the continent. ACT Foundation, as some of you may know, we are a grant-making organization. We are focused on providing funding support to local, national, and regional nonprofits working to address challenges on the African continent. We do not just provide funding support, we also provide capacity building, like what we are having here today, because we know how important it is to ensure that our nonprofits are growing, are becoming better, so they're able to ensure that they are providing sustainable impact in the communities that they work in. So capacity building is very critical to the work that we do. And we do this in different forms and in different ways, which I'm going to share with you today. This is our vision as an organization. This you can find on our website. So if you haven't gone to our website yet to check us out, I encourage you to visit our website. It's www.actrustfoundation.org. So I'm going to encourage you to visit our website if you haven't done that already. So I'll rush through this because I know that our speaker is here already and she's ready to impact us with knowledge and help us be better in our communications and branding. So our focus area as a foundation is health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. In health, we focus on malaria, cancer, and maternal and child health. In cancer particularly, our focus has been breast cancer, cervical cancer, and prostate cancer, and we are constantly building around these areas in health to ensure that we are improving the health outcomes on the continent. Our focus in entrepreneurship is vocational education, financial literacy, and inclusion. In environment, our focus has been waste management, water, and sanitation. In leadership, which is our 4th focus area, our focus is leadership development generally across the continent and thought leadership. So when we look at the SDGs, because for us that's a measuring tool that we use to actually say how are we contributing to changing things globally. So in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, our focus has been based on our focus areas. We are addressing challenges across the 9 Sustainable Development Goals, and some of them are listed here. One of the things that we hear a lot of is, how come you're not funding education? Education is so important, and we agree and we know. The bedrock of the work that we do, it's really on education. There are so many interventions that we have that are happening in secondary schools, in tertiary institutions, that are building individuals and young people. And education is really broad. Information that we provide through the work that our organizations do, knowledge sharing is constantly happening across different sectors and across the different spaces that we work in. So education is very important to us, and we don't take that for granted at all. As an organization, these are key areas that we focus our activities on. So we provide grants. So under fund management, so we have these key areas: fund management, capacity strengthening, and research and advocacy. In fund management, we provide grants, as most of you would know, but we also provide funding support to social enterprises that are taking advantage of technology to boost the work that they do. They are leveraging technology to increase their impact. We have a fund that is available for change makers in that space, and it's called the Change Makers Innovation Challenge. That application just closed about I think last week Sunday or so, that application just closed. And I hope you applied. If you did not, take note of it. It opens up every single year at the foundation. We also provide co-funding and sub-granting support to organizations that are looking to stretch their impact, and this is not really their area. There are strong points for private sector, international non-profits. We provide support to them to continue funding on the continent. Capacity strengthening is so critical to the work we do, and as you can see, that's why we're here today. Every single month of this year, we have been very deliberate about picking subjects and topics that we know are that an area of need for the organizations that we work with and organizations that give us feedback, which is why the feedback that we share is to you at the end of every program is so important, because it's from that feedback that we know what next should we train on, what next should we provide support on, how can we help the sector be better, so that we can make even more impact. So we do that through our training programs like the one we are having today. We also have an annual conference that we run every year. I hope I can take a minute at the end of this to share about that annual conference. We have the social sector knowledge series like we're having here, the open conversations, and a few other trainings that we have. Some of them are strictly for our grantees that we work with, but we open up a number of them so that other people within the sector can benefit from it. Professional volunteer program is another program that we do. We partner with the private sector to tap into the knowledge that they have within the sector to provide free consulting services to non-profit organizations. And we also have our podcast that we launched this year, and there's so much you can learn. The focus of the podcast is telling the African story. So it's our story, our continent, where we are telling stories about change makers across the work, across Nigeria, across Africa, about the work that they are doing that are creating change. And a lot of us can learn from it and use that to also improve the work that we do. And so that we know that the work we are doing is not hidden. As you keep doing good work, people would find you and people would help you tell your story. And that way it opens up opportunities for you to get partnerships, to get funding, to get all sorts of opportunities that could open up to help your organization grow and be better. We also have been focused a lot on research and advocacy as an organization, because we realize that as an organization, we are collecting a lot of data, we are engaging a lot of people in non-profits, we are sitting on tables and in rooms where we are hearing what the challenges are and how best we can improve the sector. We don't take it for granted that we are hearing those things. So research is very important to us, and we've launched a few research publications that you can find on our website that gives a better understanding of some of the sectors that we're working in. So please, again, visit our website. So in the past 5 years of our work, this is how far we have come. And we know that there's so much more we're going to do in the next 5-10 years of the existence of this organization, because we believe in Africa and we believe that we can bring solutions to some of the challenges that we face as a continent. So at the foundation, our impact over the past 5 years, we have been able to reach over 2.2 million people, right, across our 4 focus areas. We have funded 81 unique non-profit organizations, and some of these organizations, we have funded them for multiple years. We've reached over 800 communities on the continent as well. In the past 5 years as well, you'll find that we have implemented interventions in all the states in Nigeria. As of last year, just one state we hadn't implemented an intervention in. So we're very excited that we've been able to implement interventions that have been able to reach different people across all the states in Nigeria. But we are a Pan-African organization, and our focus is really Africa. We are young, we are growing, we are pushing. So far we have implemented interventions across 8 African countries. Don't worry, if we haven't come to your country yet, your country is not on that list, we are coming, right? The resources are coming so that we can do more on the continent. But we're very excited at the great interventions that are going on in different parts of Africa. And we want to be able to support that in any way that we can, through funding, through capacity building, through opening up opportunities so that you can grow and we can continue to create change. Right, so I'll quickly, these are some of the research that we have done so far. In terms of our trainings, this is what we have done. We have been able to reach over 2,000 plus individuals through our conferences. We have hosted, I'm sure now we have done at least 40 different capacity building trainings in the sector since we started. And these are some of the research that we have implemented as an organization. Now, let me quickly tell you about our breakfast dialogue. If you don't bear with me, I'm going to take 30 seconds to do this, and hopefully I can close out. So we are hosting our 6th breakfast dialogue, but it's our 5th anniversary. And at this breakfast dialogue, we're going to be discussing shifting paradigms. We're going to be talking about transformative approaches that we can use to address African challenges. It's going to be great. We have a load of speakers that are coming of experts that are going to come and share knowledge. And we don't want it to be a conference as usual where you just come, listen, and go away. We want to take out action points from it. We want you to go back energized, excited about this continent that we are on. We know there's so many challenges on the continent, not just the African continent, across the world. But we want to gather together on the 28th of September to talk about how we can address Africa's challenges, the part that you play, the part that I play, the part that the private sector and the government plays to ensure that we can shift the paradigm. We can ensure that we can begin to do things differently and ensure that there's sustainable development on the continent. So please, if you visit our social media handles, you would find the invitations there. Please log on, register to attend. When you register, please block your calendars, because we know that sometimes we register for these online trainings and then we don't appear for it. So please register, block it on your calendar. You will not regret being part of this conversation. Thank you very much. Some of the partners that we've worked with in the past 5 years, and we couldn't have done this without partners. ACT Foundation as an organization doesn't implement interventions. It's because of the 80 plus grantee organizations that we fund, and then partners like Unilever, Novartis, Sony, CAF America, GIZ that work with us so that we can stretch the impact of our work. So we are very grateful to our partners for coming on board to help us achieve all that we have achieved over the past 5 years. This is our social media handles. Please, you can take a quick shot of this so you can visit our social media handles and learn a bit more about us. And before I close out, please, we're going to be sharing with you a survey at the end of this. I want to implore you to please complete that survey. Give us feedback. We want to be better. We want to serve you better. And we hope that the feedback you give us will help us achieve that. Thank you very much. And over to you, Abiodun. I'm so looking forward to this session. Nkiru has a wealth of knowledge that we are going to benefit from today. Thank you very much, everyone. I think you're
Okay.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was muted. Okay, we'll take a quick poll now, and to take us on that is Oluchi. Oluchi, please. Yes, so you can see that.
Everyone, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for joining the session today. As Abiodun has said, we have now launched polls. Please try, it's just a few questions. It's just giving us an insight on the type of organization you are, the type of region you're joining the session from, and of course, what kind of role you play. It's a communications and branding session, so it would be nice to see a lot of communications officers, but it's also good to have a holistic approach and involve other members of your organization. So please try and answer the polls as quickly as you can. So I would just wait till about 50% respond, and then we'll move along to the training. Okay, so we have about 55 people responding. I'll just wait for about 5 more. See, majority of attendees are from Nigeria, but we also have a few from other countries within Africa and also Europe. And it's good to see that there are a huge portion of communications team members that are attending this training today. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you for giving us this feedback, and please enjoy the training as we start now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Oluchi. So a few housekeeping tips before we dig into our session. The Q&A icon here is for you to use. If you have a question, if you have a comment about this session, please feel free to use the Q&A session, and then afterwards we'll take them. If you have general questions about ACT Foundation, then you can drop them in the chat box and we will get back to you. I should also let you know that we have a speed networking session after this. So once Ms. Nkiru is done with her session and we take the question and answers, you get to meet people who are in here. You never know, maybe there's someone you're interested in funding or who will be interested in funding you that is here, and then you just get to meet people. So I will drop the link when we're just about to end, and then in case you have not registered for that speed networking already, and then we can go on and do our speed networking. Okay, who is ready to dig in? Can I see a yes? Can I get a yes? Yes, 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 yes. I want to see yeses in the chat box. Okay, okay. All right, so our facilitator today is an awesome, I call her awesome because that is exactly what she is. Nkiru Olumide-Ojo is an international brand builder. She is a certified coach, an author, and a social impact and female enthusiast. She holds over 2 decades of experience as a senior corporate executive. And what has she been doing? Looking after the reputation of multinationals and national brands in Africa. Her experience spans various service sectors, including the finance services, aviation, telecommunication, and even oil and gas sectors. She currently works in the financial services group in South Africa, and her work scope covers several African countries. She's the founder of Lighthouse Network, which is a social impact agency founded in 2014. And what are they out to do? They are focused on marketplace readiness for young people. Nkiru and her team have been serving underserved schools to help them upskill, and she provides structured mentorship for young working girls through her network. And she, of course, has had several recognitions, including Leading Ladies Africa, Top 50 African Corporate Women. Wow. Also from Guardian, she has received recognition as Guardian Nigeria's Top Africa Women in PR. She's also been recognized as one of the top women in marketing and communications, amongst many others. Nkiru has spoken at various conferences, including Forbes Africa Women's Summit, the London Advertising Week, Africa Public Relations Conference, Google's International Women's Day celebration. I can go on and on and on, but I think it's okay to stop here so that she can have this session with clap ovations, with your drum rolls. Please let's welcome Nkiru Olumide-Ojo.
Thank you so much, Abiodun. It's a true pleasure and honor to be here. And I think I'm bringing very warm greetings from Kenya. I'm sitting, interestingly, alongside the Stanbic Bank Kenya and the United Nations Fund in a pitch process, which is actually ongoing now. And it is socially non-for-profit organization pitching for grants. So I have come out from a really hugely interesting session. But I think it's first to say thank you and well super done to Osai, Andy, and all of the ACTS team. I think for all the support that they render across various pillars. Andy was talking about not supporting the education sector, and I had no idea, because it just feels to me like ACTS is literally everywhere you turn. So I'm going to be very quick with my presentation, mainly because it's really critical for me to have conversations. And I often feel like this is almost like an Ask Me Anything session, which allows you to ask questions, around the subject and sometimes a little bit after. But I think that that is often where the power is. So I'm going to be talking through, I have got about 23 slides, I think, but don't worry, I'm not going to go through all of those 23 slides. And here's what we'll be talking about today. So I'm going to take you through a quick background of what this is about, the sector outlook. Because I work in a very low entry barrier role, one of the things you find is that you find people who have decided that they're branding professionals. And so I think it's often important to say what branding is not and what branding is, benefits of brand building. And because ACT was very clear about branding and communication, it's important that we highlight the difference. And obviously, I'd like to leave you most importantly with what I've called the branding toolkits for not-for-profit. So this is your sector, and I'm sure that you each are aware that in 2020, you had 3.23 billion in this sector. There is a projection that you would have 582 billion in 2030. I suppose this would be no surprise to you in terms of how much funding and how much money it is. I was listening to that there is in the sector. I was listening to a trust barometer a couple of months ago in South Africa. And one of the things it said is that there is a cry for social justice. I say this to say that there's going to be an increase in the sector where you find people wanting to do a lot more social good, if I can call it that. So I mean, I was listening to ND and realized very quickly that this is a non-Nigerian audience, but I thought it was also important to just give a Nigerian perspective, and I had done that before I had her. There are, which you will agree with me, is a little ridiculous, but the stats say that there are 3,495 NGOs registered in Nigeria, but you and I know that there are tons. We have to agree that NNGO perhaps didn't have at the time where they published all of this data. But I suppose what this figure does for you is it shows you how intense the pool is. It shows you how heavy the market is. And therefore, the one question everyone on this call should be trying to answer is, how do I stand out? How do I tap into those big numbers, that I showed you, in the previous slides? How do I stand out? In the process that we are going through here, with Stanbic Foundation Kenya and the USA ID, and they've been on, when they put out the call for non-for-profits, they were overwhelmed. They had to take months getting, I think it's Deloitte we worked with, getting people to help them prune. So it shows you how broad, the market is wherever you are, whether you are in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, wherever. So on this slide, I thought it was important to just show who the top global non-for-profits are. And a quick search, into any, whether it's Bing or Google, any search engine shows you that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Save the Children pop up quite fast. And I mean, someone else may say to me, but they're not the most popular. Yeah, but they're the ones who pop out fast. And remember, we are on a branding journey. And I hope that this already says to you something and gives you some thoughts and ideas, as to what you should be doing when we get to conversations around search marketing. Again, in Nigeria, in the Nigerian sector, I apologize, I could have really done a wider African search. The two who jump out at you very quickly is Live Africa and Chest in Slums Africa. I think what is important to mention is they may not ultimately be either the best, either the widest, the ones with the most funding, but they are the ones who have the top of the mind awareness. So when you pop them into any search engine, they pop out. So I'm not going to read through, because being in the sector, you do know what they are, who these people are, and what it is, that they do. So I'm going to pause and ask each one of us. We talk a lot about branding. It's quite a popularly used phrase. There is corporate branding all the way to personal branding. And if you're wondering, how does this benefit me? How does this benefit you? And when I speak, I'm going to speak broadly. I know that you are not for profit, but it's important that you just take the broader message. And one of the things that it does for you is that it provides you a constant flow of business, a constant flow of the right connection that you want, a constant flow, increased, credibility, because people now know a lot more about you and what you associated with, and so it improves your credibility. It gives you a leadership role in your sector, in your area. It increases, obviously, your earning potential, enhances your prestige. It gives you added perceived value. And I use the phrase added perceived value because that's not who you may really be in the end, but just around how much branding has been built around you, you get a lot of value. And I'll pause to just give you, albeit a personal example. So many years ago, I had worked with Virgin Atlantic and Sir Richard Branson, and he had come to Nigeria for a program, and he was going back. And the flights for Virgin have always been in the morning, which meant that he was going to sleep a day. And at the time, British Airways was an enemy competition enough for him not to want to fly it. So we went into the private charter wing of MMA, of the international airport, and just based on personal recognition, we could get him a flight to take him all the way to Necker Island and then find an onward flight, to get him back to the UK. Why do I tell the story? I tell the story to say this is how powerful an individual or personal brand is. Let's not begin to imagine how powerful a corporate brand can be. So it gives you greater recognition, and it associates you with prestige and lots of perceived value. So what is branding not? Branding is not your business name or logo only. Branding is not your CEO's photo headshot. It isn't your branded merchandise. It isn't the field work alone that you do. That at all is not what branding is. So branding is a clear, positive idea that comes to mind when people think of your own organization. If I pause now to say, and obviously, look, we can, if there's a lot of Nigerian audience here, we can do Nigeria and we can go to South Africa as an example. So in Nigeria, for all the time that I was growing up, you would hear people would say things like, "Oh, the Uniben person, let them speak, I'll know where he comes from." And when he speaks, "Oh, this is a Uniben person, this is..." So immediately it tells you that there are clear ideas that come to mind when people think about you. There are more, academic definitions in front, but I don't want us to think too deeply. Let's just understand that your brand is the powerful, clear, positive idea that comes to mind when people think about your organization. It is what you stand for. It is your values, it is your abilities, it is your action. It broadcasts a message about your organization. It tells anyone who has asked 3 things about you: who you are, what you do, what makes you different, and how you create value for others. If I pause a bit and go into the sector, I think that for all the work that Bill and Melinda Gates had done over the years, when we came into the pandemic, you almost feel like they were AVAC or they were vaccine producers. And why was that? It was, just mainly also because of all the thought leadership they were providing within the sector. And I'm sure if you went to the streets to ask them about Bill and Melinda Gates, they'll associate them very quickly, with solutions around, the pandemic. So that is branding. We know what it's not and we know what it is, but how do you use it? What do you use it for? You use it to demonstrate to others about your beliefs, your values, and your abilities. You use it to change, clarify, create perceptions. You use it to build influence. And that's so critical. I know, so many organizations that you would pop out in anyone's mouth, and immediately you'll associate them with integrity. You'll associate them. So if someone said to me, I got on the board of Rockefeller Foundation, immediately it says to me, "Oh my goodness, she's quite clear on integrity," because you are thinking they must have checked her upside down. Rockefeller is so big. Now, I'm not thinking of what Rockefeller does, but that's the positive, image that comes to mind, and you use it, to influence. I want to speak to us about just 3 strategies, 3 simple strategies, and my next few slides take you just a notch higher. Simple strategies around how to build your brand. What do you do? Why do you do it in the way that you do it? Why do you get up in the morning? How different are you from the next person? How are you owning your difference? How are you finding your people? So in the pitch that, and there's nothing confidential, I'm not about to divulge confidential information, but the pitches that I just walked out of, I've had the most interesting requests for grants. I've had people who are looking for grants so that they can provide support to feeding, and they're not doing it in what you call the mainstream. They're doing it in the area of dairy, which is perhaps around more milk production. There's some science around how much milk is relevant to children and how much, how much value they'll be bringing, And when I listened to a few of the people, I just thought, you know what? It's so important to know your why, because largely, a lot of people are playing in the tech space. You find non-for-profits who are having tech conversations, and tech is, a big conversation. But it was interesting for me to find people who are not interested in the whole tech drama, consider tech to be an enabler and not the mainstream, and they're sticking to the agri or the sectors that they have identified. I give this example to say that you've got to find your differentiator. Otherwise, you are like every other person. You've got to find that thing that you're doing that makes you unique. You've got to find your own audience. I've never, and maybe that's me, I've never understood, I've always struggled with finding people who are subject matters on everything. And that's finding an organization that is, does everything. I find that that's not a strong differentiator. What are you strongest at, and how do you own your difference? I find that a lot of organizations and even non-for-profits are oftentimes overlooking how to craft their own brand statement. And your brand statement is a combination of the value that you offer to the audience that you're offering and what your unique selling point is. Remember that we're 7 billion in the world, so there will always be somebody who has a focus of near what you are doing. Your brand statement should be memorable, punchy, solution-oriented, and it should be no more than 2 sentences. In the work and the presentations that I normally do, I typically would give examples. And Andy, I don't want to put you on the spot to tell us immediately in the chat box what the Art Foundation brand statement is. It would be valuable for us to see. But ultimately, just as I've talked before, branding is a process of creating and disseminating your brand name, its qualities, and its personality. I liked that Arts Foundation is conscious that there is a difference between branding and there's a difference between communication. So you can have all the branding that you have, but if you don't communicate it to your audience, then it's lost. I often say that it doesn't matter how big a tree is, if it falls in the forest and no one knows that a tree fell, then nothing happened. So you can have a great brand, great value, great, but if you don't communicate it, then you literally have, nothing done, and no one is ever going to know about how great it is that you are. So here's a step-by-step brand strategy framework, and the next is the communication framework. I've talked a bit about it when I talked about, and I'm not going to dwell, about knowing your purpose. What is your brand purpose? Establish what your brand identity is. And within the brand identity, and if you are a non-profit on this call and connected to arts, it says to me that you already have some form of identity and have some form of branding. But it is choosing your colors carefully, understanding that everything communicates, including your colors, including your fonts. I think a big piece of it will be driven by who your target audience is and how you want to be known in the minds of your consumer. A non-for-profit whose name is Susie Uzi, you agree with me that that doesn't say anything. I'm going to struggle to understand what Susie Uzi does. So it's important that you think carefully around how it is that you want to create, that identity. I think your brand audience is so important. I say this to say that you will never be for everyone. And even though it's a personal brand, I often like to illustrate with Lady Gaga. I've come back to a corporate brand, but she's such a phenomenal example about how you'll never be for anyone. I'm not attracted to her. I don't like the way she dresses, with all due respect, the way she looks. I don't like her song. Have you ever seen someone who's a fan of Lady Gaga? They are literally dying. Lady Gaga would have a show in Sweden. They can walk from London all the way to Sweden just to be. And it says to me immediately that, oh, I'm not for Lady Gaga, and that's fine. So I say to say that your non-for-profit will never be for everyone, and that's okay. You've got to decide, am I focused on men, women, health, education, what pillar, and what's the target audience? Not sure why this slide is. No, you can't do this. We're making good progress. And with the timing, shame. Okay, cool. We'll use the manual. So this is your framework. And in the meeting I've just walked out of, I often ask them, who's your competitor? And they say, but we don't have a competitor. So obviously it's my commercial sense who is in overdrive. But I think the point is, when you're about to go into the market with your brand, it's important for you to understand who else, is playing in that sector. And, run an analysis of them. Who's the player in this sector? How are they playing? How can I benchmark myself against them? And it is benchmark because I want to be at par with them, ahead of them, or just, below them, or whatever your own personal vision is. But running a market review, and I don't want to call it competitors, I've been corrected that there's no competition in the non-for-profit sector. What it does for you is enables you see where it is that you want to play. There's a long value chain always, in this sector, and some people are the fixers who fix into the fixer, who fits into another fixer, and then you see the external. So it's important for you to just think about, where it is that you are playing. When we talk about defining your brand voice, I think if we put a blindfold and we sat people in the room and said, and put up the 3 adverts for the 3 leading telcos in the country, and by that I mean Nigeria. Apologies if you are dialing in from another country. I believe that you are going to be able to tell what brands they are. I cannot see the chat box, but I'm going to take a shot. And if there's anyone from the CSI or social impact department in those spaces, you have to forgive me. If you see an advert where the woman is shouting with a white gilly, you've got to tell me in the chat which of the telco brands it is. When you find an advert where the person is an exotic senior or corporate executive in an office, you must know what brand that is. I give this example to say, define your brand voice. Your audience is listening. You want to get your brand up to a stage that when they take out your logo and blindfold them, they can say, oh, I know that is, Axe Foundation that is speaking. And when I spoke about the strategies in creating your brand messaging, you've got to understand in one clear, succinct, and impactful way what your brand statement is. What are you here for? Are you here for young girls? Are you here for health? Are you here for food? What are you here for? Fuzziness, causes confusion and a lack of clarity. And it doesn't help people know how to help you. And, just around communication, I'd like to pause and say that the thing about communication is you've got, first of all, to define what your key message is. What are you saying? As Axe Foundation, are you saying, and obviously this is my easier example, are you letting people know that you're a grant provider? Are you letting people know that you support people, from every sector or from, every pillar? What are you saying? So I think it's always the most powerful thing is to define your key message. If you take nothing out, please take that. And when I say define your key message, I'm saying, what is the one message? If you are on a stage and you have nothing else to say about your brand, what is the one message that you must leave, the audience with? when you've defined your key message, you've got to have a think around your communication strategy. And by that, I mean, how do I want to go to the market? In defining your communication strategy, you've got to think about your stakeholder, and you need to have a stakeholder mapping. The message that you give your different audience is always going to be different. Now, let's decide that, I'm sorry, Axe Foundation, this would be the last example. Let's decide that you're Axe Foundation and you want to give a message to your different stakeholders. To the people who are coming to you for grants, it's probably, I am open between Monday and Wednesday, apply, or application opens between Monday and Wednesday. To the investor relations team who are saying, I'm looking at investments made on the continent, social impact. The story and the key message you've got to give them is one of numbers and impact. So you've got to start with the outcomes, which is, I've been able to change the lives, impact the lives of 50,000 people. An investor relations person thinks about numbers, thinks in outcomes. So that's the message for that person. Then you turn around to my social impact media persons here. What are they looking for? They're looking for messages around hearts and minds. There were people who, were raised out of poverty. Mrs. Lagbaja was living here. Now she lives here. Her life is better. So the point is, have your key messages, but you need to make sure that your key messages fit the different audience. And that is a really important piece around communication. The last thing I'm going to say to you around communication is choosing your channels. And I just want to step back a bit to choosing your channels. In most of the sessions that I've sat in today, I found very curious and very interesting channels that people have chosen. The people who have, come into the sessions who are seeking grants, who are reaching their audience through agency models. And when you ask them, they're saying to me, but these guys have feature phones. So I beg your pardon, they have, what do they call those USSD phones? They have, yeah, those are feature phones because they're feature and smart, they're feature phones. They have feature phones. So I can't send more than X amount of messages to them. And I say that because if you run a non-for-profit and you bring a consultant who says to you, because that's what happens. These days, everything is put it on social media, put it on, but maybe that's not where your target audience is. Maybe if you're looking for a farmer, you need to reach him through an agency process. So choosing your channels is a very critical piece of your communication strategy. And I'd like to ask that you do that, with a lot of strategy and a lot of understanding as to how much money and budget that it is that you have. The last thing I want to say is measurement. There is no need to put out communication that you cannot measure. And there's so many ways for us to measure these days. We can measure through click-through rates, how many people are clicking through, even if it's clicking through down to your website, how many people are clicking through, how many times are you popping up when search engines, search for you. But it's really ultimately about measuring what it is that you put there, because it is obviously what gets measured that gets, done. So I speak to you a bit about how you use insight, how you build equity, and how you statistically lift your brand. But I think what I'd like to also say to you is, I know that you're not for profit, but it's important that in measuring, you are checking out your ROI. And by that, I mean, what is the return on the communication investment that you are making? How much lead are you generating? How much conversion is coming through you? I've talked about the website, the social search, the social engagement. I'd like to end with this because I think it's so important that we have conversations, and I also need to go back into the pitch soon. I'd like to leave you with what every non-for-profit should have in their brand toolkit. The first is you must have your look and feel. By that, it is all of the things that I said branding alone is not. You should have your logo, you should have your voice tone, how it is that you would like your voice to speak, bearing in mind the example that I gave about the telcos. You should have in that box how you look, your colors, your choice of logo, down to the fonts, that it is that you use. You should have your digital footprint, again, dependent on your audience. I literally don't have lunch with anyone that I haven't looked out. On Saturday, I was meeting with, I have a study group in Johannesburg. And I was meeting with one of the ladies. I had known everyone in the group except her. And I was having a really big meeting because I needed her to teach me something. And on my way in the car, I said, oh, by the way, I haven't even Googled her. And I just Googled her to see what she is, what her background is. And, you know, it helped me. So, and now this is an individual. I cannot imagine anyone who will accept an RFP without Googling and understanding who you are. So I say this to say, when you set up your digital footprint, you've got to be clear about your naming process. You've got to be clear about your key messaging that you put in the box. You've got to be clear about how it is that people perceive you. We're all humans and we all have blind spots. And what does that mean? It means that we see ourselves differently from how other people see us. And therefore, it's important for you to get independent reviews around your digital footprint. You may think that your website is a wowzer and that anyone who comes on in knows exactly what it is you do, but allow a third party to tell you, obviously before you release this into the market. There's so many digital footprints that I see that trouble me. Someone is running an NGO and the name of her non-for-profit is Uzi Susie. We cannot tell what she does. On her Facebook page, we're confused. There's a struggle between her personal life and her personal photos versus the corporate. So I often say, be careful to separate your personal identity where you can from your corporate identity. I think it's important that your purpose comes through immediately. It's really important that you have a pitch book. And you can have a pitch book on your phone, and it can be a short 3-liner snap scan that you share with anyone that says, what do you do? It's important that you have your key messages in there. It's so important. And I think just sitting through the process today, I had said to myself, I'm going to do a bit more with helping non-for-profits tell their story. People have powerful stories and they come for pitches and they don't get it. Remember that it's actually not the best idea that wins. It is a person who tells the best story that wins. One of the ladies I just saw too long ago talked about, I started this, she said something around watching 2 people die from hunger. Immediately my interest, is piqued. And the truth is, you've got to understand the mindset of the people for whom you're pitching and tell your story in a powerful way. You've got to tell your stories from your outcomes perspective versus your output. People say, I went to the village and I gave them sanitary towels. After that, what happened? That's your output. After that, what happened, with the outcome? So I think storytelling is such a critical piece of winning in this sector. And I'd like to say that it will be so critical that everyone, invests in being able not just to brand, but also to be able to tell a story. I'm going to pause now and then go off the slide so we can take questions and comments. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'll throw this open for questions and I'd let you know just how many minutes I can afford. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nkiru. That was awesome. I couldn't stop taking notes. This was really a rich session for me. If you have questions, please let's drop it in the Q&A box so that Ms. Nkiru can attend to our questions.
Hello, Nkiru. Thank you so much for making the time. I know you have just a few more minutes with us because I know you have something else you need to run into. How many minutes can you give us to run through Q&A so that we don't take up too much of your time?
So I've just seen that it's 1 o'clock here, which on the schedule here is lunch time. So probably I can use 15, 20 minutes of my lunch because we'll be going at 1:30.
Okay. So let's say about 10, 15 minutes just to manage the time. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Piotr, I think we have a question from Laura Ede.
Okay.
but it's on the
That's in the
chat.
Q&A.
It's on the chat. No, it's in the chat.
Okay. We'll see. In the Q&A box, we have. Okay, so Anne McCarthy says, how do you shorten your story of how and why I started our NGO?
Okay, so I think that's a great question, actually, because there were some people who came with stories and I'm thinking, this is a lot now, please keep it down. I think that in the very end, each one of us humans are emotional beings. So I think you find a fair balance between emotion and the problem you're looking to solve. I think that that's a great way to pitch. And I think that there's a cleverness and a professionalism around finding a smooth and a fine balance as to how you land. Some of the conversations, I've heard, and I talked about the lady who said she watched 2 children die from hunger in a certain village. And it was just a one-liner, but she started, the way that I saw the pace was emotions, facts, problem, numbers, what is required of me, of you. People sit in sessions, and even though we know that is a grand request in sessions, they leave it not thinking, what do you actually, require of me? So I think leaning with emotions is always a great place. If you don't have an emotional story, that's fine. Move right straight into the problem that you are looking to solve. That rarely comes through. People are, kind of not sure. And the thing about the problem you're looking to solve is sometimes it sounds powerful to you, but you've got to have a third party listen to it to be able to judge how powerful it is. So the person who is solving, as an example, a milk problem from a child who died, she needs to have the connection between what the doctor says that milk does for children, quickly tied into the rate of death from that deficiency. Immediately you see the problem she's trying to solve before she articulates it. So it's a fine balance between emotions and facts. Please don't dwell on the emotions, because it will weary the people. It's just finding that clear and fine balance around emotions and what you are looking to solve. That's very critical. Again, it should never be too much, getting a third person to listen to it. Your ideas can be so powerful, but they may not, because if they're not well articulated, stand, when great light is shown on it. So I think that's probably my strongest message, and I hope that was useful.
Okay, thank you very much. How does a nonprofit with 2 different thematic areas effectively communicate their message to their audience?
Look, I suppose the first thing is, how vastly different are these 2 thematic areas? If you are in science and trying to find a solution to DNA issues, and you are, I don't know, now dealing, I'm going to hang on to this milk issue because that's what I can think about now. You're now doing, milk issues. I think you should try hard to find an overarching body. And it's not impossible to find an overarching body and then find a connector. If they are not, then you lead with the one you consider solving the biggest social issue or whatever the issue is. If you're unable to find a middle ground, then you lead with the one that has the strongest issue. But there's obviously nothing wrong with having more than one theme. It's just, how do you articulate it? And I often joke and smile and say, but the Americans taught us early, where you find someone who's doing philosophy and mathematics in school. And there's always, a tying and a message, for which, they speak about. So I think is lead with what you find the strongest and what you feel like is the strongest problem that you're solving, if you cannot find a touch point for them both.
Okay, thank you very much. This one's from Samira Farouk. She says, as a small NGO with little resources, how often do you recommend our story and communications are made to our stakeholders?
Yeah.
How often?
Yeah, I mean, we have to assume that you've done your stakeholder mapping and you've got to think about the sector. So I'm just going to say you are a health management or health, you're playing in the health sector. You've got to think when you do your stakeholder mapping to say who is my primary and strongest stakeholder. What do they need to hear from me? And I don't think it's only about how often you want to send. You've got to take a look at the market, say, and that's where some research comes in. How are these guys consuming information and how much information are they getting? I think those things will guide you to say, okay, if they're consuming information, I've gone to do a research and I find that once every quarter, they are gathering information and listening, then you've got to be smart, obviously, about timing. If it's once every quarter, is it towards the end? You find a timeline for which they would not be overwhelmed, and that's what I'll do. I'm sending your message and your updates. I'd also like to leave a little tip. If everyone is doing pros, which people are, then it's important that you use infographics. They are so powerful. Infographics tell you in one page, and by the way, so everyone knows, and you can put it in the chat, Canva, the app, has free resources for non-for-profits. If you don't already know, I can see your sign nodding, so it means you all know. So use infographics. It's a powerful tool. So whilst Abiodun has sent a long, I am Janet, I'm solving big problems, I did this, my own infographic comes, it says who I am, it says immediately with the pictures, the 4 problems I'm solving, in what markets, blah. So it's a one-shot pager, and it already gives it, because it's a cluttered market and you want to be heard. And therefore you must put in every tactic, that you have around being heard. I hope that was helpful to the person, to the asker.
Okay, thank you very much. Anonymous attendee. Okay, branding and communication cost a lot. Can one achieve meaningful outputs with very low budgets?
You can achieve phenomenally meaningful, phenomenally, and I'm not a waster of words, my work is words, phenomenally amazing results. And I think part of what the issue is a lack of awareness. They're just switching power. It's potentially a lack of awareness. And you've got to think about the most powerful things. If I need to be known, I need to be known in this sector, I need to be known when this sort of search is made. Google searches, if you have $150 US, you're all right. You go and you pay for the search words and you have them. When they're looking for NGO dealing with female health sanitary issues, your name, the name of your NGO pops up. But I think that there's a lack of awareness. So people are there thinking, I need a big budget. You actually don't. The budgets are quite minimal. If you plan carefully with a good strategist, $150, $200, $100, and you have to be dedicated to it. When I started, and now I've just been exhausted and rested from my Lighthouse Network page. But when I started my Lighthouse Network page, I did it myself. I was eager, I was desperate. I knew that the secret was consistency. So I knew I had to post in the morning, afternoon, and evening. I was dogged. So I think it's how hungry are you? You can actually start things by yourself and move, push yourself until you have the right budget to be able to push it. Obviously, every brand's ideal life is to have a huge budget that they use to do as much as they like. But this is real life, as I like to say. You may not always have the right funding to invest. The other thing that I learned so late, in running my own non-for-profit, is the power of rewarding volunteers. And how do I mean? If you run a non-for-profit and you say to Abiodun, can you please be my communication strategist? In real life, you can't afford her. And now she says, okay, that's fine. I'll do this for you for free. You should be able to know what you do for her in return. And they can be, you find whatever rewards you give. They can be medals for service, reference. You can be going off to her LinkedIn page, to comment about how supportive she's been. But the point I'm making is volunteering is powerful. People have run amazing non-for-profits and received all the support they have. Slum for School, until they started getting international and corporate funding, were getting just individuals who were volunteering their man-hours. So don't be deterred by not having funding. Go and ask Osai if she can help you for free.
Okay, insightful tips. So I'll take two questions at once because I think they're related. Someone asked, how do you determine your audience on social media? And then what's the most effective channel of communication if you're working with women and children from, and you do majorly community outreach? So what will be the most effective channel of communicating with your stakeholders?
So if you're doing community and children, even at that, and that's why I say people always think that the entry barrier for marketing is low, but there is a lot of science, behind it. So if you are looking at mothers and children, you still have to unpack that database. What segment of mothers? There are mothers who are A, B segment mothers, there are mothers who are C segments, there are mothers who are D, E, social, economic class segment. If you're looking for the A's, and I'm tying it into the first question, probably easier. They probably have higher mobile penetration rates, probably a bit more savvy, so they're probably quicker for you to reach. If you are going to the DE segments, then you've got to have a think as to how you reach them. I'm going to give you this one quick example. Many years ago, I was looking after CSI in a corporate, and we had gone up to the north to build, we were targeting mothers, women. We had gone up to the north to build water, borehole in a community. It was a very intense organization. With marketing, we measured, and very quickly we saw that our brand awareness had reduced in a community where we had built. Yes, I'll make it, but I'll leave shortly. The driver is downstairs. So our brand awareness was falling within the segment, and we were like, why? We went in to investigate. Guys, you'll never believe how we shot ourselves in the foot. We had done this social seeming community development up in the north, where there were women who were in Poda at the time. This was I'm not going to tell you when. You got to check my resume and know what company it is. And they began to dislike our brand. Why? The only time these women could go out to have community interaction was when they went to the tap. And the tap and the borehole was far away. By putting this seemingly good CSI, we now brought it into the community. They had nowhere to go. This was their only outing for the day. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm actually sad. It means we did it without consumer insights, without understanding the target audience. And that's why our brand was falling in brand warmth within that area. So the point I'm making is every segment is different, and you need to use consumer insight to understand how to reach them. If we had used sufficient consumer insight, we would have found out that they're not looking for borehole that is near their house. They're looking for borehole that they will travel so that on the road they can be communing with their friends. So you've got to bend down and put your ears to the chest of your target audience to see where you can reach them. Women and children, just to go back to my point, is quite broad. You've got to say in what segment of women and children. If they are the ABC, your work is done, mobile penetration rate is great, you can find thoughts and ideas about how to reach them. If they are at that side, you will find how powerful they are. They probably listen to influencers, they probably listen to their community leaders, and instead of sitting down and saying, oh, I'll just use Instagram adverts, it won't take you anywhere. You better go into those communities, roll up your sleeves, use the influencer and have a conversation and get the change to behavior that you want. Abiodun, I'm only going to be able to take one more comment because it has come from me.
Okay, I totally understand. Okay, I'll take this last one.
Yes,
how can a trust fund targeting the corporate and retail segments properly channel its messaging and still be effective?
How can they channel its messaging? I think one of the biggest errors we all make with the advent of social media is to think that all of our audience is in the same place, and they're not. So it's the same, go back and break down your target audience to the minutest details and find out what channels you can use to reach those target audience. So I think take your team into a room, do a target audience breakdown. I've sat in meetings before that I thought that I understood the target audience, and by the time we were leaving, I was like, wow, that's actually not who I'm looking for. So a full breakdown is always so powerful. I feel like I missed a full response to that person's question, but I mean, this is all I can muster at this time. I'm going to have to go. I saw somebody said something about non-for-profits fabricating stories. A lot of times they do. I sit in someone, I'm shaking my head. I'm like, kai. You know, they tell stories like, in fact, I heard one tell a story. I'm like, what part of Nigeria is this that you're telling this dark story? Our life is hard, but it's not this hard, my sister. Don't be annoyed. So I think I just want to say thank you so much, Osai, Andy, all of the arts team. Thank you for listening to me. I'm afraid I do have to go. I'm actually on a country working visit.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Would have loved to actually give a formal closing remark, but because you have to go, please drop your thank yous in the chat box for Mr. Nkiru as she leaves. Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day.
So
Cheers. Thank you.
And we'll continue. Okay, all right. Apologies that our facilitator had to leave before time. We're hoping that you have gotten something from this session. She had talked about what branding is not, how do we create a communication strategy, how do we even develop a brand statement, amongst many other things. Someone was asking for the recording of this session. It will be made available later on YouTube. If we get her permission, we'll ask the facilitator for her presentation slides as well, because I know that that was really also a very rich one. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we will be going into a speed networking session, and in a few minutes we'll be doing that. But before we do that, we just want to, you know, have a feel of what you have gained today so far. So if you could just drop a statement, what is the one thing you have learned today? You know, in this session, what have you learned today? I'd like to just take a few minutes so that we do a quick wrap up. So please drop in the chat box, not the Q&A now, in the chat box. What have you learned? What is one thing you're taking away today to make your organization better, especially with respect to branding and communication? Okay, I'll go to the chat box to see what you have. Okay, someone has learned about visibility. Use your best channel to get your audience. Yes, you need to know what channel is best. So just because people are trending on Instagram does not mean that your audience would necessarily be on Instagram. Brand measurement is key. Yes. How do you measure success if you actually do not, you know, how do you tell whether you're successful rather if you actually do not measure? So brand measurement is key. Effective communication for nonprofits. Thank you, Joseph. Okay. Branding and communication is critical to being visible to over 7 billion people in the world. Yes. Okay, you have learned what branding is not. Yeah, I heard Ms. Nkiru say it is not just about your logo. It is not just about the headshot of your executive director. It's a lot more than that. Okay, Abiodun says, know your target audience and know what works for them. Very, very critical. So you're not winking in the dark. Okay, I have learned about what branding is and what branding is not. Thank you. Glory says, prioritize consumer insights, right? Understand where your target audience is. Okay, your digital footprint has to be clear and know your target audience. Finding the right timeline for audience is essential. Yes, you know, if you're going on LinkedIn, for example, what days work best on LinkedIn? When are people more attentive on LinkedIn? Okay, someone also made Amos, benefits of branding and effective communication for NGOs. I learned the different stakeholders required, that they require different communication techniques. Yeah, that is so true. You can't tell the same things in the same way. Understand where your target audience is. Okay. This is really awesome. We're glad to know that you have taken something really tangible away from this session. So now I'm going to drop the link again for our speed networking session. The essence of this is for us to get to know each other. So when you click on that, if you haven't registered before, When you click on that, it will prompt you to register, and then there are simple steps to follow. You would get to meet different people at different points in time. The software will automatically reshuffle you. So you meet one person now, and then you meet yet another person. And I'm hoping that this will be a worthwhile experience for you all. Okay. I hope that you can see the link. Ms. Cindy, is there something you'd like to say?
How could you tell? Oh, right. So I just wanted to jump on and quickly say that even though you're joining the networking session, if you struggle at any point, we're still going to be here. The team is going to be here, so we'll be able to walk you through if for any reasons you're struggling with joining the speed networking session. Just so that you remember that and don't feel, oh, I'm not able to join, so you log out. We're here. There are too many interesting people that I want to meet, just looking at the number of people here. So please don't leave. I want to get to meet each and every one of you. Yeah? Thank you, Biodo.
Okay. All right, so please do not leave Zoom yet. Just click on that and then go over to follow the steps. I bet we can all still hear me. So once you register, you will get an email in your mailbox, and then you can follow the instructions from there to join the event.
The Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation is a grant-making support local, national, and regional nonprofit organizations working to address challenges and related vulnerabilities across Africa. Our vision to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa. Our mission to build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives that unleash potentials and empower beneficiaries. ACT Foundation supports sustainable, high-impact initiatives that provide innovative solutions to social, economic, and environmental challenges in Africa. In our 4-year journey, we have funded 75 organizations across 800 African communities. Over 1.9 million people provided with critical interventions in the following 4 focus areas: health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. From 36 health interventions, we have impacted 328,283 plus people. The Foundation's work is in line with the Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which is geared towards facilitating better healthcare services and outcomes for the underdeserved and low-income groups in communities across Africa. Our health interventions through our implementing partners are focused on cancer, maternal and child health, malaria. In the areas of entrepreneurship, from 28 interventions, we have impacted 17,015 plus people. Working directly with Sustainable Development Goal 1, No Poverty, and Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. To achieve this goal, the Foundation supports initiatives in the following areas: vocational skills acquisition, financial inclusion and literacy education. In the areas of environment, from 12 interventions, we have impacted 47,833 plus people. We are focused on providing innovative solutions for waste management. We have created awareness on waste management, waste upcycling, recycling, and disposal. In the end, the Foundation aims to reduce the effect of improper waste management in communities across the region and encourage the reuse of certain waste materials. Another area supported by the Foundation concerning the environment is the promotion of clean water and sanitation. In the areas of leadership, from 16 interventions, we have impacted 1,525,353 plus people. We are continuously developing the leadership skills of individuals, particularly young people, for governance, economic, organizational, and professional development. To achieve this, the Foundation partners with organizations that focus on thought leadership and national development. We have reached 6 African countries. We contribute to capacity development within the non-profit and impact space and have conducted 30 plus capacity building trainings. 1,700 plus people reached through our annual Breakfast Dialogue multi-stakeholder conference. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference.
Our population, our environment highly uninhabitable. The lack of care has led to the degradation of our health and welfare, with the World Health Organization and UNICEF stating that approximately 2.4 billion people will die unnecessarily from disease and poor sanitation, all of which can be avoided. And this is all caused by our non-challenged use of industries, deforestation, and high disregard for our environment. Malaria, as we know, is one of the deadliest diseases known to man, affecting over 214 million people and killing 500,000 a year, 90% of them being in sub-Sahara Africa. They say a land that lacks visionary leaders and integrity hardly experiences peace and progress. And this is evident through our failed economical, political, and social ventures, which have also led to massive unemployment. So, in a system with a myriad of challenges, we need to get our youths into the spirit of entrepreneurship. As we can see from the Western world, entrepreneur skills help them to develop economically. We cannot just sit back and fold our hands, watching everything continue to break down. People die from diseases easily treatable in other parts of the world, and our children starve to death in an environment that is dying too. The Aspire Coronation Trust, ACT Foundation, is a non-profit organization established to help local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address the challenges and associated vulnerabilities across Africa. Here, we seek to promote broad-based participation with other institutions and organizations aimed at building sustainable communities, providing innovative solutions to social, economic, and environmental challenges. Our vision is to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa, with the mission to build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives that unleash potential and empowers beneficiaries. At ACT Foundation, our interventions are focused on 4 key areas, which are health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. Our health intervention is narrowed down to malaria, cancers such as breast, cervical, and prostate cancer, and maternal and child health with a special focus on infant and young child feeding. Our entrepreneurship focus is narrowed down to vocational skill acquisition and financial literacy, while our environmental concern focuses on waste management. Our drive for leadership focuses on youth leadership development and thought leadership. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference. So, let's come together to make the positive social impact we desire in our world.
Compassion may be the milk of charity, but a well-articulated vision and organization are the indices that guarantee effectiveness. Aspire Coronation Trust ACT Foundation is a grant-making non-profit organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address challenges and associated vulnerabilities across the African continent. Our work factored from the SDGs formulated for global best practices ensure that we can affect our societies in ways that ensure a cascade of knowledge, interest, and development long after we are gone. This we are doing by fostering ownership as we drive sustainable impact within our communities. Our interests, as evidenced, span health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. In channeling resources to the organizations we fund, ACT Foundation is committed to developing and strengthening them to ensure sustainability through organizational development, monitoring and evaluation, impact measurement, board governance and support. The objective is to guarantee the delivery of effective and efficient outcomes to the beneficiaries.
When we started off, one of the things that we wanted to do was to make sure that the organizations we're working with, it was not really about just giving them money to go and resources to go and solve problems, but we wanted to partner with them as well to make sure that in the long term, we're building sustainable organizations. You can see the difference in terms of the growth of the organizations, but also in terms of the solutions to problems that the challenges the different communities are facing.
Dustbin Village, a rural and underserved area in Lagos, home to over 550,000 people. Rufina's vision was becoming a burden. She hugged the television set like her life depended on it. The classroom was not any better. But through the intervention superintended by Vision Spring and Catholic Opticals, working with ACT Foundation, Rufina now has her eyeglasses.
When she was looking at TV, she would go very close to the screen. Then I asked her some questions. Are you not seeing well? Good enough. Their teachers at school noticed this problem. I was making arrangements, trying to put up, because I know how much this glass I'm wearing, how much it cost me.
Before I got the glasses, I felt miserable, frustrated. I felt handicapped, like I was missing out on everything that the teacher was saying.
Since she got this glass, that report is no longer there.
I feel great. At least anything that the teachers they are writing on the board, or if they're making an illustration on the board. Wow, with this glass, I'm able to do better in my study.
Considering my lame pocket, when you look at this place now, you see that a man of 3 kids, that one has saved me some money, which I should have spent to procure a glass for her.
From the depths of my heart, I want to say a big thank you to Art Foundation of Vision Spring for giving me the opportunity to be able to see the world differently.
Basically, what we said is if we can go into communities with their sponsorship and support, we can screen all Nigerians to ensure that we kick out refractive error and presbyopia. And they sponsored 7,500 glasses, and we screened about 16,000 plus Nigerians, including people in the Dustbin village.
At the end of the project, we were able to give glasses to 7,659 people, women and children.
People want us to give, beneficiaries 70,000. Indirect is another number of thousands. But we do a lot of monitoring. So all the programs we've done last year, we are doing the monitoring and evaluating of the programs right now, because we want to be sure that really the effects that we claim are really happening is what is happening.
The Fitch International Evaluation Report on Economic Performance in 2016 reveals that more than 55% of the youths are either unemployed or underemployed.
The solutions in terms of getting them started on a business is sometimes so overwhelming, and we try as much as possible to find organizations that are working and creating hands-on solutions.
Entrepreneurship is one of the solutions to reducing poverty, as it is a medium to improve the quality of life for individuals, families, and communities, and also sustain a healthy economy and environment. During this period, 84 female entrepreneurs in Lagos State and 2,000 secondary school students in Ogun and Oyo states have gone through a rigorous entrepreneurial training. Olatunji Olamilekan is a young man who is redirecting his vision. He grew up in the Olaleye community, it's another rural and underserved area of Lagos State. Raised alongside his younger sisters, Olatunji's mother took ill in 1999 and later died.
The promise I made to my mom, I just have to keep going. And the only thing that always get me back to the track then is this education of the thing, like, this is my agreement with my mom. That was a dying wish.
Olatunji surmounted serious hardships, but still found himself at the crossroad of unemployment.
So now I actually went to the school and nothing is still happening. So, you know, that was what actually kept me moving ever since. That was that one goal that actually went there. Now I've obtained the goals, then what else?
With some of his friends dead or unaccounted for, he needed to toe the straight and narrow, and the vocational skill acquisition project of Freedom Foundation, supported by ACT Foundation, presented the needed opportunity.
I saw them pass by in the, you know, like a rally, so they give me a flyer, and then I read the flyer and I see like, okay, skill acquisition stuff, and I had to call one of them and say, please come. Are you sure this is free? And they say, yeah, of course it is. Like, we're not paying for it.
I see him as someone who will grow in it. I see him as someone that is patient, someone that has focus. So that's why I decided to retain him. It's going to be useful for me.
The grant has really helped us a lot because we've been able to reach out to over 500 people in communities in Surulere and Etiosa local government. And also we've heard so many interesting stories from people who were orphans, people who didn't have any means of livelihood, and they've been able to be empowered through this program. And some of them have gone on to start their own businesses, and some of them are now working and they're earning a living.
We're teaching hands-on enterprise, but also in terms of capacity building. So if you start a business, you can actually take it to the next level.
Through ACT Foundation's entrepreneurship intervention, 438 youths have received skills acquisition training, business management training for 60 budding entrepreneurs, employability training for 293 out-of-school youths in Yaba local government area, Lagos State. Henry Anumudu was a communication and media liaison officer at a media organization in the capital city of Abuja. Henry left his media career and applied for the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship in 2017.
I saw firsthand the crisis of education in Nigeria, and I was personally challenged to come into the system and try to see what good I can do.
After going through a 6-week training, where he learned teaching techniques and aids which would ensure children got maximum benefits from classroom learning, Henry was posted to Ebenezer Primary School in Abeokuta, where he teaches primary 5 pupils.
Being in the classroom has given me certain skills that are important for leadership: listening, patience, communication, being able to work under certain kind of pressures, to be able to also, with my co-teachers, being able to create a working relationship with them. It's important because it can define your impact on the pupils, and that has also made me to be able to work with others.
It was the one that made us to have press club in the school, which we have started today, and I was impressed during the assembly. We coordinated it, we explained, and the pupils per se, they are the one that read the news.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, said that we should not use plastic bag, but we should use paper bag to manage our waste.
The best definition for me for leadership is the person who decides or does the right thing at the right time. If you have that kind of person in such a system, whatever the inequity is or the challenge is, they will definitely solve that problem. So the best way we have thought about addressing or meeting our vision someday is placing the right leaders in the classroom. And that's the summary of what the whole fellowship is all about.
What you see that they've done, you can't really talk about the solutions for the next few years. It's very long term. But they were also using the younger generation to go back into the schools to do something that changes the life and the value system of the kids.
Doyisola Ogunye is a thoroughbred professional. As CEO of Medic, she is the driving force behind the Kids for Clean Seas initiative to schools in the Etiosa local government area axis.
We started the Kids for Clean Seas because we decided to take it back to the grassroots and to the children. We took the project Kids for Clean Seas to 16 schools across Etiosa, and we're letting them know that if you clean your environment, your immediate environment, you're actually making the oceans cleaner, because every litter that is dropped on the floor usually gets into the canals, and from the canals it finds its way to the waterways, and from the waterways it gets into the ocean. What happens after that is the fish we eat this plastic and gets into our own digestive system and into our bloodstream as well, causing a lot of illnesses that we don't even know about yet. So the most important thing is to nip it in the bud and let the children understand the importance of recycling, the importance of keeping their environment clean, and overall the importance of saving the planet from plastic pollution. At age 10, he's ready to start gathering children together to talk to them about what he has learned. He's ready all the time to lend a helping hand to what we're doing on the beach, in schools, and even at home. And I believe that in the next 10 years, Israel will definitely be a force to reckon with when it comes to taking care of the environment.
I started picking these PET bottles when I saw my sister picking it all around places, and I said, let me join. I've been telling my friends that if they have any bottle that they want to throw away, and they should recycle it.
It was disturbing me. Mommy, I want to go with my sisters. I want to go.
Through the program, the school was given an award, and I myself, I have to. When your environment is clean, you will live more comfortably.
Some women are now able to sustain themselves through avenues created by this initiative. Kids have also imbibed a positive attitude towards the environment and will take this with them into the future. Through our grantees, ACT Foundation was able to reach 18 communities, 18,000 people, and 26 public schools. In addition, 45 trees were planted and 34,450 recyclables generated.
My son had come back from school once, and he started explaining, we had to recycle, you can't use this to cook, you can't do this anymore. And I was just like, gosh, because it changes your habits, what you are used to doing for the last 20, 30 years.
ACT Foundation is grateful to our partners and sponsors for trusting us.
Without Access Bank, and especially Mr. Herbert Wigwe, we won't be where we are. The backing they give you is second to none. And then of course, we also allowing us to do what we know how to do. Gives you a spirit to soar. Africa is the melting point for us. The story of Africa is also always told in a very negative way. And as an indigenous grant-making organization, we want people to also understand that we can be a solution to the problems that we are facing. We, as Africans, have to change and solve the problems that we have.
The Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation is a grant-making organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address challenges and related vulnerabilities across Africa. Our vision to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa. Our mission: to build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives that unleash potentials and empower beneficiaries. ACT Foundation supports sustainable, high-impact initiatives that provide innovative solutions to social, economic, and environmental challenges in Africa. In our 4-year journey, we have funded 75 organizations across 800 African communities. Over 1.9 million people provided with critical interventions in the following 4 focus areas: health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. From 36 health interventions, we have impacted 328,283 plus people. The Foundation's work is in line with the Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which is geared towards facilitating better healthcare services and outcomes for the underdeserved and low-income groups in communities across Africa. Our health interventions through our implementing partners are focused on cancer, maternal and child health, malaria. In the areas of entrepreneurship, from 28 interventions, we have impacted 17,015 plus people. Working directly with Sustainable Development Goal 1, No Poverty, and Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. To achieve this goal, the Foundation supports initiatives in the following areas: vocational skills acquisition, financial inclusion and literacy education. In the areas of environment, from 12 interventions, we have impacted 47,833 plus people. We are focused on providing innovative solutions for waste management. We have created awareness on waste management, waste upcycling, recycling, and disposal. In the end, the Foundation aims to reduce the effect of improper waste management in communities across the region and encourage the reuse of certain waste materials. Another area supported by the Foundation concerning the environment is the promotion of clean water and sanitation. In the areas of leadership, from 16 interventions, we have impacted 1,525,353 plus people. We are continuously developing the leadership skills of individuals, particularly young people, for governance, economic, organizational, and professional development. To achieve this, the Foundation partners with organizations that focus on thought leadership and national development. We have reached 6 African countries. We contribute to capacity development within the non-profit and impact space and have conducted 30 plus capacity building trainings. 1,700 plus people reached through our annual Breakfast Dialogue multi-stakeholder conference.
At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make